Hey guys, welcome to episode number 17 with actually my bestest friend, Ryan Fritz. We discussed a little bit on our past on how we've been friends for so long, but more importantly, we really discussed Ryan overcoming a very big mountain of student debt that he took on through his college career. And through that experience on how it's opened up Ryan's eyes in a more financial literate way, and how he's really been strategic on businesses that he started, investments he's made, and how he's overcome that to set his family up for financial success. What's up, you guys? Michael with the Proper Form Podcast, episode number 17, with actually my bestest friend, Ryan Fritz.
Come on.
What's up, dude? How you doing?
Great, brother. It's a beautiful Thursday. Now I'm hanging out with you. I'm honored to be on.
It is a Thursday. One of the other guys said it's a little Friday.
Mini Friday, yeah.
I've never heard that. I've just heard Friday Eve. But anyways, so episode 17, Proper Form Podcast. Excited to have you. This is actually, I guess, like your first podcast you've ever been on? Is that right?
First podcast I've ever been on. Kind of cool because number 17 was what I wore when I played quarterback at Dow Middle School. So shout out to Dow Middle School.
Yep.
Honored to be here. Excited to chop it up and expose some fun.
Yeah, not expose too much stuff because we do have a lot of history together.
Yeah.
All the way back to real quick, what, like Upward Basketball?
Upward Basketball, First Baptist Church McKinney. We were like in first or second grade.
Yeah. You were a lot better basketball player, and you played through high school, so.
I was not great, but I had fun out there.
I was good at defense.
Yeah, real quick, Michael was a phenomenal defender. Obviously, he was like an all-state, all-whatever cornerback at Boyd.
Thank you.
This dude would just hound the heck out of the offensive player and like steal a bunch of balls, and he would just not know how to slow down and go for the breakaway layup and just all backboard every single time. But we would just learn to follow him, and you get a quick rebound and a quick putback, and then you're off the other way.
There you go.
So let him run.
I would try my best to, like, what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't, as my momentum was going forward, like pull my arm back as I lay it up. I would just kind of let it go, but then momentum still taking it and just
that body control,
banging off the backboard. But it was great defense on the football field.
Yeah, I agree.
Defender. But, well, man, what I specifically want to dive deep into with you is I've really, on a serious note, applauded and looked up to you and your just consistency and your tenacity and your drive for pursuits of what you want to do, and whether that's sport careers, you like die hard wanting to go to OU and go into college. With that came some things that I want to dive deep into: your pursuits for Catherine, which is now your beautiful wife, your pursuit for your kids, and then also in your career. So if we back up a little bit, after we graduated from McKinney Boyd High School, you ended up going out of state to OU, and you paid for all of that, right?
Yeah. So obviously, growing up where we grew up, just a perfect example of just where we grew up. It's a beautiful town, west side of McKinney, my first car was a 1994 Jeep Grand Cherokee with 250,000 miles on it. Red Charlie is what we called her. My wife's first car was a brand new BMW. So, just like, and then Michael had a sweet Acura, and I'm just rolling around this red box that, it was great because I was scared to push on the gas too fast. So I was scared the transmission was going to fall out. So anytime we had to go anywhere, it's like, Michael's got the sweet system. He's got a fast car. Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, after high school, I actually went up to OU. The first degree I majored in, or when I walked in as a freshman, I was a double major, geology, geophysics. And then, I changed to petroleum engineering. Obviously, Jim, your brother-in-law, excuse me, had I don't want to say he, convinced me to do it, but my grandfather's been in oil and gas his whole life, and I wanted to be like him, from a professional standpoint. And then, Jim kind of didn't corner me, but he's kind of like, hey, bro, you should pursue this. So, engineering degree, petroleum engineering. After 2 years, got through the weed out classes, the worst class ever. It's called Reservoir Rock Properties. And you learn about porosity and permeability of a rock.
Oh, wow.
And all the formulas that come with that, mechanics of material, all these physics, all this stuff. So I got through that, and my grades are okay, but obviously it's engineering, so it's not like communications.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I switched to another engineering field, which kind of coincided with kind of how I'm wired. You know this, like all about efficiency and making sure you're maximizing.
Yep.
So I switched to industrial and systems engineering. I also did a victory lap at OU to get an extra football season in. It was great. When we were there, we had, Baker. So that was fun the last couple of years of
Yeah.
school watching them ball out. But yeah, OU was great, man. I lived with Anson, who was our buddy, our best friend from high school. And
Yep.
getting to walk through life with him up there was it was rewarding. We were both heavily involved with Young Life. He was,
Yeah.
I always loved watching him play that guitar and the way he like uses his gifts from the Lord to just be the man out there. And so I was a Young Life college leader, so I was kind of not in a weird spot, but a place where I was ministering to people my age, possibly even older, maybe a year younger than me. So getting to walk through life with some guys
Yeah.
that were, in crazy spots. You think about it, probably one of the darkest places in America is in a fraternity house. And I was a member of a fraternity there. I lived in the house for a couple of years and just trying to be a light to the guys out there. And a crazy part of my pledgeship or my college career is I didn't have a sip of alcohol till my 21st birthday.
That's right.
I had a deal with my dad. I don't
What's
want to.
that?
Yeah, he was like, "Hey, dude, if you don't drink till you're 18, I'll give you $1,000." I was like, "Okay, sign me up."
Easy.
And then, I got to my 18th birthday, he gave me $1,000. I was,
Yep.
on the sidelines watching you play. I forget,
Yeah.
we were at some school in Flower Mound, I think. It was my 18th birthday, and then after the game, me and my family went up to Choctaw. Yeah, I took my $1,000, blew 200 of it real quick. I was like, this is stupid. But then, I turned 21, had my first drink. It was Crown and Coke. It was great. And I was like, this is wild. But, that's just part of my college story. While I
Yeah.
was there, I always joke and say I was the only Division I athlete in this room. Sounds really stupid, but at some of these big schools, they have like scout teams for the basketball team. So I was actually on the girls' scout team. So I got to run, pick up, or I got to practice with those girls. I got treated as a D1 athlete, got to sign up for all my classes early, got like one protein bar a day, got some free shoes, got some free swag. But the best part was,
forgot about that.
yeah, preseason and postseason, my senior year, my 5th year there, OU's boys team went to the Final Four. So like all fall and all spring when they weren't practicing, I got to play pickup with the guys. So I'm playing against like Buddy Hield, who's been in the league for forever. Having to guard him was miserable. He just worked me. But like those pickup games in the summers were so much fun, and the springs were so much fun. So part of my little OU college journey.
So cool.
Yeah.
Man, dude, that's like a crazy flashback.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you mentioned, and I think there's some light I want to touch on.
Yeah.
Your dad is a freaking rock star, and even like your old Jeep, he's a pretty cool car fanatic guy, and has always worked on cars, worked on Mustangs.
Yeah.
Is he still doing that?
Yeah. So, he grew up a little different than us. He's one of 8. His dad was a pastor and his mom was a nurse. And when he was in high school, he used to say, he used to race his car for refreshments. So I always thought it was sodas. Turned out it wasn't sodas. But he had a Dodge Dart, 1970 Dodge Dart. I think it was green. And he said the only drag race he ever lost was to a 69 Trans Am. So he said when he was successful, that's what he wanted for his first like big boy, like I did it purchase. Like some people want a Rolex, some people want, Porsche or whatever. He was like, I want a 69 Trans Am. So he bought it, and that's where I first started to fall in love with cars. I was actually, me and him took the trip up to Missouri to go pick it up, put it on the back of a trailer. Yeah. But yeah, he's still doing that. So he had a couple of those, bought them and sold them. In high school, we actually bought myself a 68 Mustang to restore. The guy we bought it from was trying to turn it into an electric car. So he's like way ahead of the game, right? Trying to be Elon in Richardson, Texas. But that ended up, not really working out. And he had a couple other projects that he was working on. So my senior year, I don't know if you remember that, I bought that 1970 F100.
Yeah.
And me and him fixed it up. Lots of good memories in that truck. Lots of, I just felt like a boss in that thing, even though I was just an 18-year-old.
That was awesome.
Skinny dude with earrings and a mohawk. But, those are years ago.
Well, man, you touched on like I think this obviously known you for so long. This resides in like just who you are and your character. Like your dad betting you $1,000 to not drink. You're like, yeah, that's easy. Now someone might see that, oh yeah, you were just doing that for the money,
Yeah,
but a lot of it was just like you have a lot of drive and knowing you of like when you commit to something, you commit to something.
right.
And so if you could, how like were you even aware of going into college at OU, changing majors, doing an extra lap? Like looking back now, do you feel like you, if you would have understood the weight of some of that school debt that you were taking on, do you feel like you would have made that decision?
Man, I think about that all the time. Like, obviously, my wife, who I'm sure we'll touch on later, she's just been incredible and just been, Team Fritz the whole time. She's like, I love you, and she's been, step in step with me, helping me knock out this debt. So without her, none of this stuff would be possible. But looking back on it, I'm like, man, I probably would have went and I had I could have gone to Blinn and had a good
Yeah.
time with you, lived with you. And but like I just felt like OU was the right place for me. I had an offer to go be a walk on at Colorado School of Mines, to play basketball there. That was crazy expensive. It was like 65,000 a year, and I
Wow.
was like, that sounds like a lot. But I offered to go to Arkansas like $2,500 a semester, which is a lot less than OU was. OU is about 35 a year. But when you're 18 years old and you go to school, my parents were incredible to me, but they're like, hey, like this is something like we would love to pay for your college, but we just can't right now. And I was like, that's fine. You
Yeah.
know, Dave Ramsey always says, the reason why, on an airplane they tell you to put your oxygen on before you can help somebody else, you got to take care of you and yours. And I was like, I didn't understand it at the time, but I'm at peace about it. And
Yeah.
when you're 18 years old and you're signing that financial aid packet and you're like, oh, 35 grand a year, it's no big deal. I'll come out making 150, 200 grand. I'll just pay it off in a couple of years. I'll buy myself a new car. And then you walk out of school and you're like, hey, that's not real. So, but like in hindsight,
Yeah.
it's 2020. Going back, I probably would have gone somewhere cheaper, knowing what I know now from just a financial literacy side of things. But I don't regret it. I talk to Catherine about it all the time. Like, man, I should have gone somewhere else. But she's like, you wouldn't be in the same position.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have made those connections. You wouldn't have got that internship with GE. You wouldn't have gotten on that leadership program and graduated at the top of your class if you didn't
Yeah.
go there and take your licks. And you wouldn't be. I probably wouldn't be as financial literate as I am now if I
Mm.
didn't if I chose not to go to school there. And I think it's a great lesson. Like putting it all in hindsight is it sucks. It sucks stroking
Yeah.
that check every month, but that's life.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've been unbelievably diligent with writing those checks.
Oh yeah.
And like if you could offer like any wisdom to obviously there's I'm sure kind of two boats. There's
Yeah.
people that may listen that are maybe getting into college that are
Yeah.
taking on a lot of that same type of debt, but they're excited for the memories
Yeah.
and the experience they're about to have. Or there might even be people on the other end that are like you and I that are married now, have kids, have all these other bills and expenses, and maybe aren't being as diligent with servicing that debt. What do you feel like has been a pivotal piece in you being consistent with you just, I mean, because you've been attacking it and you were almost done.
Yeah, almost done.
Crazy.
I got like 20% left, so nothing too crazy. But uh, you know, when Catherine makes fun of me, but we were on our honeymoon back in 2016, which is so long ago, which is crazy. I was reading, a financial literacy book, and I was like talking to her about. It. I was like, I got these plans. We're gonna do this. She's like, dude, can we just enjoy the sun and the cold drinks? I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I'm like nerding out over this book, reading
Yeah.
it. But going back to your question, kind of like, I guess you're asking like, where did that drive to just be diligent on it comes from?
Yeah.
It's really like I started my financial literacy journey post college. And really, actually, it was my senior year. I took this class called Engineering Economics by Dr. Scott Moses. I haven't talked to him forever, but he was instrumental in like teaching me about like the calculation of interest, the calculation of debt to income ratio, and just like, and it just kind of opened up my mind. And I just started reading and doing a lot of self-taught, kind of not courses or curriculums, but I would listen to the Financial
Yeah.
Freedom podcast. I would listen to Dave Ramsey on my way into work when we were out in West Texas, and that's kind of right where it really kicked off. And Catherine Catherine's a year older than me, so she's a cougar. She's gonna hate that I said that, but she was a teacher. She graduated from LSU with a teaching degree. So her first year, she taught kindergarten at Bennett. So she was 1 year ahead of me, and then I took my victory lap. So that second year, she actually taught at Bennett too. We always joke that she got a master's or master's at OU because she would come up every weekend and hang out with all the friends
Yeah.
and just enjoy that college life. But
Yep.
um, she's just been lockstep with me the whole time. Like she was a teacher, so we were fortunate enough that she was very diligent after college. She lived at home for 2 years. It really, set a foundation for Catherine and I. Like we knew we were going to get married, right?
Yep.
And so she was like, "Hey, like I'm going to put away a lot of this money so that like we can be set up for the future."
Yeah.
And so I'm forever indebted to Catherine, just her sacrificial love for me, not just strictly financially, but just like the weight and the allowing me to like I was so sure that I wanted to marry Catherine when I was in college, that like I portrayed that to her like at a year and a half probably before or a year before we got engaged,
Yeah.
like, and so she had that thought in the back of her head like, hey, this isn't just for me, it's for us.
Mm.
And I always make fun of her first big girl purchase when she got her first check teaching in McKinney. She went out and bought that Jeep Grand Cherokee. She's still in now. She's gonna see this and tell me she needs a new car, but you know when we got to West Texas and I was out there for that leadership program, I was just like, I hate that, like from the financial literacy like that I've been
Yeah.
learning. I was like, let's just stroke a check and get rid of this. And so we've been very fortunate, our whole lives, either buying cars from friends and family or whatever, that we've never really had a car loan. So going back to your original question of, how did you stay so diligent? For me, it was just about keeping expenses low, looking for other ways to make money.
Mhm.
Crazy story. I remember, the first like sense of entrepreneurship I really got was flipping iPhones on Craigslist.
Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh.
remember going to one of Michael's twin sister, Megan, shout out Megs. We would always go to their soccer tournaments because it was like a fun weekend away. And, Randy would always spoil us, pizza and stuff. So
Yeah.
we would always go to the soccer tournaments, and the girls on our team were obviously so cool. And so we would go to these tournaments. I remember like we were driving out to West Texas, actually Midland, for
Mhm.
for that soccer tournament. And I'm like messaging this guy, like he's like, hey, I'll buy your phone. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make $70 on it. What about where I make 150? He's like, yeah, sounds good. I was like, all right, I'll meet you. And that was like the first taste of like the hustle. And I
Yeah.
kind of got addicted.
Yeah.
It's just a funny story. I remember.
I totally forgot about you doing that.
Yeah,
Flipping
dude,
phones.
come on.
That is
I had that
insane.
one phone that slid up this way and slid up that way
Yeah.
freshman year.
Is
And
that called the
then
Sidekick?
not
No,
that
the
one, but it was something different. But yeah, I
wow.
thought I was a baller. And then I got an iPhone freshman year. I was like, this is sick.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, man, as you getting closer and closer to servicing that debt, and as you've progressed in, golly, your work career from going to Midland, doing GE, to then now you're really pretty cool. Kind of, is it an executive position where you
Yeah.
are now?
Yeah.
Has your view kind of changed in regard to debt? Like, do you still just despise debt? Do you see it as a tactic to get
Yeah.
into other opportunity?
Yeah, so my attitude towards that is I think it's a necessary evil. Obviously, I didn't have the capital to purchase my house in cash, right? You have to finance things like that.
Yeah.
But, consumer debt, the credit cards and stuff like that, like I try and stay away from it as best I can. Obviously, if there's a gap, Lord willing, there never is, but you have that as a backfall to like dial into. But
Uh-huh.
like from now owning my own business and like business debt, like if the point of going into debt for your business is to increase your income at a later date, like I think, and you can service that debt, meaning you can pay it off on a monthly basis and you're not falling behind or whatever. I think I don't have a like, I don't ever want to be associated because I feel like it is a necessary evil. I hate owing people money.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the worst feelings in the world. So that's why the student loans kind of been eating me up. A mortgage you can kind of live with because we locked in when the interest rates were low.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not a huge fan of it. I highly suggest against it. Obviously, a lot of people have different philosophies where, hey, they don't touch their debit card. All their paychecks go into their checking account. They use them and their wife use one credit card. They get the rewards, and then every month on the first they pay it off. Like
Yeah.
if that works for you, rip it up. I just
Yeah.
have never been a huge fan of it. So,
Mm.
but I do believe it's a necessary evil. We haven't had the chance to really dive into real estate investments or anything like that, where
Yeah.
we haven't, been able to scale our income that much. But, I would love to, future, we've talked about this, just
Yep.
dreaming together, but, flip a couple houses. And obviously that takes capital, and obviously you have to go into debt to do so. So, that's something I wouldn't be opposed to, but I think
Yeah.
there's other ways for me right now, my life, my journey, my financial journey, to use our cash in other ways.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some sort of game plan,
Yeah.
end goal,
Yeah.
steps to get there, and obviously, hopefully, Lord willing, if you're taking on debt or doing some sort of flip, that the hope is to obviously be in the green at the end,
Yeah.
all of that. Well, I'm sure you and Catherine are probably dreamed about what you're gonna do when you guys are done servicing that. Is that, I mean, obviously you're a very strict, kind of budget plan guy. Is that just you guys thinking savings?
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
doesn't have to be crazy, but like,
yeah, I told Catherine when the student loans paid off, like I'll probably cry just because it's I mean, of joy, just because like I honestly would view it as a celebration of just like her
dude, yeah,
her diligence and her like, commitment to me and like loving me for who I am and not what I have or what debt I carry or what. And so, I would
and
love
that doesn't
to
just have to be financial debt. A lot of
right.
people got
Yeah. Yeah.
other
And
debts.
yeah, and I once it's done, I told Catherine, I was like, once my student loan's over, you can stop work. And like right now she's a teacher. This is her 11th year. Um, I'm biased, but I think she's the best teacher in the world. I see the way those kids light up when they see her. So it's fun. She actually works at a school here in McKinney that services, 3 to 5 year old kids that you have to qualify to be a part of their school. And I tell her every day she's doing the Lord's work. I mean, she's pretty much like half social worker, half teacher. And,
Yeah,
sometimes she can just be that glimpse of just light for those kids. Like she
for
can be that
sure.
mother for 7 hours a day. Like it's tough. Like it takes a toll on her, but she comes home, she's exhausted, and then she just goes into rock star mom mode. And, seeing her
Mhm.
do that makes me fall in love with her a little bit more every day. So,
Yep.
um, going back to your original question, can you rephrase it?
Yeah, just like, I mean, kind of plans or ideas what you guys want to do, or
Yeah.
the kind of strategic ideas of like, yeah, I just don't even have to think about writing a check for
Yeah.
2 years, or
Yeah.
and that goes into savings. That because you're also very diligent about investments and
Yeah.
money growing on its own and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so like, my financial, literacy journey has taught me a lot about how the stock market will appreciate on average about 10% a year. If you look back at the past 150 years, it's about 10% a year. So you have the drops and you have the climbs, right? So my thought is
Yeah.
if you just stay consistent buying, regularly, whether it be your 401k, Roth IRA, whatever it is, you're going to eventually, obviously inflation bites into that a little bit. It was, 5, 6%. Now we're hoping it's down closer to 2 or 3 with, administration changes, some of this, trying to cool off the housing market and all that fun stuff. But, for me, investing has been a part of my life where when we look at our monthly budget, we look at our incoming, we look at our expenses, you know, student loan, house, car, groceries are crazy right now. Maybe going out to eat with Michael and Sophie every once in a while if they would
Yeah.
ever call us back. But, um, when we look at a key part that I've always been told is like you have to pay yourself first. And so that's like at my job, I have a 401k, right? So they give me a free match up to 6%. So I choose to maximize at 6%. I also choose to max out my HSA. It's a triple tax advantage,
Mm.
right? So it goes in pre-tax, it grows tax-free, and you can use it for medical expenses.
Yeah.
And so that's another form of like a tax-free growth that I think there's the reason why they cap it is because it can be so beneficial for
Yeah.
you long term. And so that's something that I've been,
Mm.
heavily investing in. Like if I wanted to liquidate all my assets right now and stroke a check for my student loan, I could. But going back to that financial journey that I learned, when I was 23 years old, it's you never want to rob from your future self to pay your past self. And so that's kind of stuck with me. Like there's been, some chatter in our family, like Catherine wants to quit teaching, right? So she's like, maybe I should, cash out on my retirement, take the hit and just pay for student loan. I'm like, it goes against everything. I understand like your heart in that, like you want
Yes.
it to be done,
Yes.
but like that goes against everything I believe. So,
Yeah.
we try and stay diligent with the investing. You have to pay yourself first. I'm trying to, I don't want to get too nerdy on here, but I'm a firm believer in a Bitcoin, right? It sounds really weird and sounds like I'm a crypto bro, but just with, the simple, philosophy about supply and demand and how I think it's going to appreciate over time and with government adoption and the U.S. government, the state of Pennsylvania just announced today they want to have a strategic reserve to offset their pension. And, when Nixon took us off the gold standard back in the 60s, inflation went crazy. And so hopefully, the leadership that's going into office, they see a strategic Bitcoin reserve as like a way to offset, we used to be on the gold standard. So if we had $10 trillion worth of, currency in circulation,
Yeah.
we'd have $10 trillion of gold. Now we don't have any. So it's not backed by anything.
Yeah.
So if you could hold something that stores value and there's a cap on it, right? There's only going to be 21 million of these things ever made. 19 million have already been mined and a couple million have been lost. So if you think about you're owning 1/21th million, if you have one of them, which is a great goal to have, then, Lord willing, supply and demand.
Yeah.
Unless every country in the world comes and says, "Hey, we're going to ban this," then it's got legs. So that I'm just thinking, long term, it's been on a tear these past couple of weeks. So I've been pretty happy.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And that is definitely a little bit of a hole there.
yeah, yeah. So
But
that I know going back to your question, but going back to your question is just pay yourself first,
yep.
and then what we choose to do with the delta is, if you follow Dave Ramsey's plan to a T, like me and Catherine would never go out to eat. We'd drive one car, we'd, Everett wouldn't be in the Mother's Day out school that he's in,
Yep.
but, me and Catherine decided from a young or age when we got married, it's like, we got to live a little. Like you
Yeah.
always make fun of me
Yeah.
because you're like, you travel more than anybody I know. And like, that's something like, that's what I save for. It's like,
Mhm.
not things, but like memories. And so funny story, our oldest son, Everett, he's 3.5. And before you turn 2, you can be a lap child and fly as many times as you want. So I think his first year of life, he went on like 26 flights.
Really? That
Yeah, dude.
many?
Yeah, he's spoiled rotten. We have family that have been very successful and have houses different places, and we've been
Yeah.
fortunate enough to, go visit them. And our family's been incredibly gracious with,
Yeah.
family vacations or family memories are like super important to them. So it's passed down to us,
For
which
sure.
has been fun. Making memories with the kids. Like the first time ever, we threw him in the snow in Park City. He's like trying to
Yeah.
catch it with his tongue is the funniest thing ever. But, Charlotte, our youngest, Catherine was out on maternity leave. I was out on paternity leave. And, it's hot as Hades here in Texas, right? So we're like, let's go to the mountains for a couple of days. So we flew Charlotte out when she was a month old, took her to the mountains. It was beautiful. Like night, you have to wear a jacket. Like in the morning, you
Mhm.
have to put a jacket on to go walk and get your coffee. And, those are some of the things I'll never forget.
Yep.
But we try to make, in our budget, we try to make sure that we have a slush fund for travel, and fun and entertainment. Like,
That's great.
it's stuff I would never pay for. Catherine thinks is important, like breakfast with Santa. It's a family tradition now. It's way
Yeah.
overpriced compared to what it used to be, but it's memories, right? Like the funny thing is, you walk in, they give you a free thing of champagne. I'm not drinking this year, but last year when we went, we had just found out we were pregnant with Charlotte, so they put the food and the champagne in front of Catherine. She's like, I'm gonna throw up.
Oh my
It still
gosh.
costs us like $150 to go to breakfast, but Ever loved it. He got breakfast with Santa, got a picture.
Memories.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, man, Everett's going on how old
He's
now?
3.5. Yeah,
Going on 4.
yeah,
Um, Obviously he's got a long way to go, and Lord willing, you guys are gonna continue to be successful in just your career and your careers because you guys have a lot of drive. You care, you build relationships, you're passionate about what you do. How do you see, and this could completely change in the next 15 years, but how do you see yourself starting to distill some of that gratitude and understanding into Everett as your son and, your little girl too?
yeah. I mean, we've been extremely. I hate the word blessed, but we've been blessed, man. We've been extremely fortunate with, the career that I've been blessed with so far in my career growth over the past, 6 years since we moved back to McKinney. And we're fortunate enough that we can do nice things and have nice things. And for me, growing up, like that was always the case for me too. But my parents instilled to me is like, you have to work for this. Like
Mhm.
whenever it comes to age and we start giving him, chores, like he's not going to get an allowance. He's going to get a commission. So if he works, he's going to get paid. And that's what I want to instill to him at a young age. And
Yeah.
like, we're fortunate. We live here in McKinney. Catherine's parents are split up. So we have 3 sets of grandparents here in McKinney, and all of them
Mhm.
have been pretty successful. And it's like in one weekend, he can see all 3 sets of his grandparents, and he can go to Grammy and Pop's house and play. He can go to Tutu and
Yeah.
Granddaddy's house, swim in the pool. He can go to the other grandparents' house, Nana and Papa, swim in their pool. And he just thinks it's normal. Like, dude, you don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
And so, that's something that like I'm trying to make a conscious effort for as he grows up is like, dude, Nana and Papa had to bust their tail to get this. Like
Mm.
Tutu and Granddaddy had to bust their tail to get this. Like, and just
Yeah.
like, if you don't work, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
And that sounds so simple, but you know, there's power in the word no. And I feel like hearing that at a young age will set you up for success. How many people do you know today that have never been told no and they go to adulthood and they just can't function?
Mhm.
I mean, so, I will, I always tell Catherine, like, I want to give you the world, but like, I could go buy you a Range Rover right now, but is it a smart financial decision? No, because I'm
Yeah.
trying to set us up for success later down in life. So
Yeah.
delayed gratification is something I'm gonna try and teach Everett and Charlotte,
Yeah.
Charlie girl. Um, but I'm already wrapped around her finger, so she might get everything she ever wanted. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I mean, David, the guy that was on here on the last episode, just talking about, his discipline a lot is through his boys playing sports
yeah,
and teaching them not about outcomes or their specific performance in certain areas, but like the character and the things that are taught in that. Like, man, not always rewarding or discussing, certain outcomes or plays that did on the field, but how did they react off of the field, or how did they pick up their player when they were down?
treat
And
people right.
yeah,
Yeah, and I wasn't the best athlete, but I got around, right? So, my biggest thing is, sports taught me a lot, and you know this too, like the teamwork, the camaraderie, like working with a diverse group of people, like, and that's translated to my career too. Like, I don't think I'd be successful in what I do now if I didn't have coaching, like hard coaching, like my senior year, Coach Christian, ex Air Force, bad
yeah,
mamma jamma, used to fly B-52s, and we were so coddled as like growing up where we grew up, and like you never really
yeah,
faced adversity, right? And so Coach Christian coming in my senior year and really like kind of getting in our tail and like being real and listening to what he said, not how he said it, like kind of flipped my mental. And so, that was a great launching point for me going into college because I'm like, this isn't guaranteed. Like
yeah,
you're not entitled. Like I feel the word entitlement like encompasses a lot of McKinney, obviously different parts of it but like where we grew up, dude,
yeah,
we were entitled to an incredible childhood. That's how we felt. We're entitled to X, Y, and Z. You're not entitled to anything. You got to work
mhm,
for it. And Coach Christian really instilled in that into me. And my senior year kind of changed my life, to be honest with you.
yeah. Yeah, he was a great coach. I didn't play obviously my senior year, but I remember him, and he was very strict, very direct, very professional, but he did his job well, and that obviously portrayed in the performance and the respect and kind of the just the professionalism maybe of like
Yeah.
of the team, of
Yeah.
your team, of some of the other teams after, obviously you guys too. But I think there is also a way to be able to, like, w- this can be a very loaded kind of topic, but we can't control what we're born into.
Right.
But there is a way to maybe be an entitlement, or even to be able to come over adversity and just the way you're brought up, and have an appreciation for it, but also have, a drive and a work ethic, and know that that's just not like handed over, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. And somebody said this to me. I forget who it was. We were in high school. They're like, someone's always outworking you, and someone's always had it worse than you and made it farther than you.
Hmm.
And so it just kind of puts things in perspective. Like I was fortunate enough, I had a loving family. There was always a roof over my head. I always had clothes. I always had shoes. There's people that come from a broken family, broken home, that didn't have all those things that have like turned themselves into like super successful people.
Yeah.
So it's like if
And the
they can do,
opposite,
yeah,
that
exactly.
maybe had it better.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's just like if they could do that, why can't I? And I really think that launching point of that mentality, it started going into senior year. After junior year, new coach came in and said, "Hey, I don't know what y'all's off-season workout program was before, but you're doing performance course with the football team." And that had never happened
Yeah.
before. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And like going that summer with Coach Malk and those
What?
guys, like my body changed. Like,
Yeah.
and I saw the work you put in, and the fruits of your labor.
And your mindset,
And
probably.
dude, mindset 100%, then just getting grilled by coach. And then it was great. I mean, senior year, I mean, we had a good time senior year. It
Yeah.
was like you look back on it. We took Everett up to Boyd for one of the theater club was having like a breakfast with superhero pizza with superheroes, and we were like walking down the hallway, and I was like, man, it just brings back so many good memories
Hmm.
because we were fortunate, man. We had a great community. Like we had guys trying to walk with the Lord. We had successful sports teams for the most part, and like we were involved in pals. Like the community we had
Yeah.
from that was, I really feel like, set us up for success.
We had, I mean, completely biased, and I've said this many times, but I still think to this day we had one of the best classes. And honestly, a couple of the classes before us and even under us, were really good too.
Oh yeah,
And I mean, I think those do kind of come in waves, and
Mhm.
there's parent aspects that come into that in regards to how kids are raised and entitlement and appreciation and
Yeah.
a lot of other factors. But we had it great.
Yeah, and I also think, we were so fortunate, um, with Scott's involvement in our life.
Yep.
Scott Rhodes married both of us, was the officiant at both of our weddings. Michael was the best man at mine wedding. I was the best man at his wedding,
Yeah.
which was a blessing. And, dude, just, having somebody talk to you about Jesus when you're 14 years old, 15 years old, and you always have that self check of like, I met the Lord at Crooked Creek Ranch when I was, uh, 15 years old. I also met Catherine at Crooked Creek Ranch that same summer. So you
There
might
you
find
go.
your wife at Young Life.
There you go. Yep.
But like, I really feel like I can see it now because, or I could see the gap because Young Life kind of fell off after we left in McKinney.
Yeah.
Like, no offense to anybody, but like you can kind of see how, um, you know, if a solid group of high school kids, both guys and girls, aren't walking with the Lord, how that can deter their steps and decision makings, whether that
Mm.
be the partying or having fun or whatever it is. Like, I never wanted to do that. First of all, I wasn't drinking, but like that was never something that I ever yearned to do.
Yep.
And I really do believe because I was like really trying to walk with Jesus, and like I was obviously flawed in many different ways, but um, just
Yeah.
that involvement and just like having a community like you, Anson, Scott and all those guys, just like, our Sunday night campaigners at Flip's house. Like,
Yeah.
how would our life look if we didn't have those?
Yeah. Well, it's just like it takes an army to raise kids, to raise youth, and I think yeah, like you said, we were just grateful and blessed to have so many different voices and people pouring into our lives, whether that's our parents, our sports coaches. Obviously, Scott was probably honestly the biggest
Yeah.
one there, because everyone listens and takes from everyone in different ways based off of past experiences, fears, failures, whether it could be from a guy or a girl or someone that they might view as kind of like their parent. And maybe they didn't have a great relationship with their parent. Like there's so many different filters that come through, but I think that's something that's really helped us through our growth as men, and we're definitely still flawed and mess up and constantly fighting our battles every day. But it's just the the consistency of kind of mentorship and pouring in that we've done, and then I also want us continuing to try to do that with people younger than us
Yeah.
was big.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about like when you're talking about like influences in your life, like when you're in high school that really like shape who you are. Like I think about your dad. I think about Jim Wilson, Anson's dad. I think about Scott. I think about my dad.
Yeah.
And then the coaches that we had, Flip, like if I didn't have those guys in my life, like I probably wouldn't be living right,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Definitely, man. Well, dude, I know any other things that kind of you think or that you see yourself maybe doing that your dad did or you did or didn't do that you're kind of excited to maybe distill and do with Everett as he grows and you pour wisdom into him and financial literacy wisdom into him.
Yeah, I think one thing that I could be better about is definitely having a little bit more patience. He's 3.5 years old and he's not the best listener right now. He's just a wild man.
Welcome.
Yeah. But really just, I think something that my dad did for me, um, that meant a lot was like, he was always like, dude, I love you. And he would, when I would screw up on the field or on the court or whatever, he's like, still love you. You still had a baller game. You can't let one mistake like define you. And just, there's grace in that, but there's also, just that sense of like how many people do you know tell their dad they love him every time they talk to him?
Mhm.
Like I have that relationship with my dad. When Catherine's car didn't start this morning, her battery died. I called my dad. I was like, "Hey, can you meet me there and jump this car with me?"
Yeah.
And he's eager to help. And that's one of the huge blessings of like being back in McKinney,
Mhm.
is just getting to spend time with him. But just being there, as a father now, seeing the other side, just like trying to love somebody unconditionally, even when they tick you off or you're
Yeah.
exhausted from a horrible day at work. They're just 3 years old, right? They don't know what kind of day you had. They don't know what's going on with your business or what's going on at your 9 to 5. They don't know. Uh, just trying to be gracious with their time and patient. That's something that I feel like I could work on. But you know, just loving on Everett and just trying to encourage him that he to be the best he can be. And I
Yep.
think that's what my mom and dad always said to me is like, you may not be the best, but you better try your best.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do for E, man. And it's so fun to see him grow up and be a little turkey all the time. Little stinker.
Yeah. Oh man, dude, I really appreciate you coming on and just sharing some of your
Yeah.
vulnerability with kind of your journey, but also, dude, just yeah, the success and the blessings you had, and it's a cliche kind of thing to say, but it's like I feel like we're just getting started.
Yeah. Come
I
on.
mean, literally with our families
Yeah.
and a lot of business ventures in ways. Like, yes, you've been in kind of an executive role with a company, but you also have some other businesses that you work and you hustle on and
Yeah.
provides more income and allows you to pay off those debts even more. But also just, that work ethic and that drive has always been a part of who you are. So that's going to continue to
Yeah.
play.
And that's kind of what I'm hoping like Everett and Charlotte see is, you know, like daddy's working hard so he can
Hmm.
provide for us. Like I don't want ever them to I don't ever want them to think that it was all just handed to me. Like
Yeah.
I want them like I own a roofing company. We haven't talked about that. It's not a huge magnitude, but it's something that I'm really proud of.
Yep.
And I want Everett and Charlotte to see that like daddy's busting his tail so he can provide the best life for me and my family. You
Hmm.
know, speaking of college, I don't know how much it's going to cost when they go to school, but I'm like, brother.
Yeah, we'll see what
Yeah.
college even looks like in 20
Yeah.
years.
But, I just want them to see that hard work. I want them to see the determination to set the family up for success. Like my heart, like I don't want a Lamborghini. I don't want any nice cars. I don't want a huge house. Like I just want that
Mhm.
freedom that comes with being financially free and being able to say, you know what? I don't need to take these calls. I don't need
Mhm.
I don't have a boss that's checking in, hey, how was this? How was that? I want that freedom to like to buy my time back because like you only get so much on this
Yep.
earth and you need to maximize it. So, I had a heart to heart with Scott a couple months ago. It's like, am I not living right? Like I cannot stop thinking about, the accumulation of wealth. And he's like, dude, you got to be like you said, you got to be a good steward with what you have. And you have to, there's nothing wrong with wanting more for you and your family. Like if you had different ambitions, like, I want to, buy a yacht and I want to, live
Yeah.
this life. I want a condo in Miami so I could party, that's different than being like, I want my wife to quit working. I want her to have a nice car. I want
Yeah.
to eventually retire on 10 acres in a one-story farmhouse in McKinney, which probably really hard to find now. But,
Yeah.
those are the goals. Like I've never been like, hey, I want 10 Rolexes or I want a diamond ring. Like I need a gold chain. Like I'm
Yeah.
happy. And I think that's another thing that plays into just the financial literacy part of things, like being content, which I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of people don't have. So I try and be content. Like I don't ever go buy new stuff for myself. Catherine
Yeah.
and my mom are like, "Hey, can I get a Christmas list?" I was like, "I don't want anything. Like I don't need anything. I'm
Yeah.
totally happy." And they're like, "That's no fun." I'm like, "Eh." But
They're gift givers.
yeah, they're gift givers. That's one of their love languages.
Yep.
Mine is not.
Yeah.
But you know,
That's great, dude.
yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you jumping on and doing your first podcast with me.
Come
I
on.
feel gratitude and gratefulness that you felt confident enough to come on with me on the Proper Form podcast, and hopefully it's not your last, whether
Yeah.
that's here or on a different one.
Yeah, maybe I'll get nominated for the next one or
Yeah,
something.
there you go. Well,
Um,
man, thank you guys so much for listening to the Proper Form podcast. I'm having a rough time. Episode number 17 with the Ryan Fritz. Thanks so much, man.
Love you, bro.
You too.